What's up, Junkyard? It is your host, Junkyard Jimmy. I got a guest here. We're going to talk some AEW stuff coming up here in the Junkyard. Like I said, I got a guest here with me. His name is Commander K-Dog. You see him on the Callin Audibles podcast every Thursday at 9 p.m. How you doing today, sir?
I am quite well. Thank you for having me. It has been a minute since I have done one of these fantastic wrestling podcasts. So, figured today would be the day that I re-debut, shall we say.
Re-debut. It has been,
whatever you want.
it has been a minute since your podcast.
That's on a very, very, very long hiatus.
Yeah, so about a year or so. I'm wearing my acclaimed stuff, so scissor me daddy ass, right? Yeah. Anyway, let's jump right into it. I thought yesterday's episode of AEW Dynamite was one of the best they've had in quite a while. What do you think?
It definitely was pretty good throughout the whole show. Kept me entertained throughout the whole episode. There were a couple things that I wish they had on there that wasn't on the show, but it wasn't sorely missed. Where I was like, man, if they were on the show, this would have been actually a really good show. I thought overall last night was pretty good.
So I think the first main thing I want to kind of break down is we see the return of Miro and Thunder Rosa going into Poppy Khan's office. Later on in the show, Tony Khan announces that he has an announcement next week. I think we all know what this announcement is, right? I think all the rumors and the dirt sheets have already spoiled this. Are you excited for the announcement, or is it kind of already washed away from what's going to be said? The new show debuting on Saturdays, as from what we understand.
I mean, nothing's official until the announcement's made, but yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much all are under the assumption of what's going to be the announcement next week, which is cool. I think having a Saturday night wrestling show is going to be interesting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I know that Rampage has been kind of fluctuating here the past few weeks of early Friday night start times, late Friday night start times, moving to Saturdays. So that doesn't really help for the viewing audience to kind of be consistent with one day. Like Dynamite is typically every Wednesday. Monday Night Raw is always on a Monday. SmackDown on a Friday. So right. You get accustomed to these days. So it'll be nice to have another show that hopefully will be set in that day. Should be pretty interesting as far as how the show looks, feels, if it's any different than Dynamite, if it's any different than Rampage currently. And yeah, it's really actually kind of cool the way that Miro and Thunder Rosa, they both came back. And yeah, so very interesting.
Your hatred of Thunder Rosa is almost as intense as my hatred for Roman Reigns.
Not that bad. I don't hate Thunder Rosa. I just think she's annoying. She is a good wrestler, but she's such a drama queen. And watching All Access and hearing Britt and the girls talk about Rosa, it just kind of puts me under this conundrum of good wrestler, kind of a weird, shady situation on the outside, kind of like a Punk thing, but not as bad as a Punk situation.
She kind of has that Tessa Blanchard reputation, it seems like.
That's a fair.
She's like one of the top in the company, maybe in terms of in-ring, but the backstage politicking and everything kind of ruins that for her. And I would agree with you on that. I think from these promos that I got here, the one thing I kind of get out of this is there's going to be some form of brand split, which I think is great for AEW with as large of a roster that they have. You can't fit everybody in on Dynamite. And so to have a brand split per se, to have certain people dedicated to this new show, certain people dedicated to Dynamite, I think not only for AEW and as a whole, but I think more specifically the women's division, this may be a win for the division overall and AEW overall.
I would agree with that. I think the women's division needs to have a lot more stuff showcased. There was a time where they had a decent amount of storylines going on with the world title, with the TBS title, the Outcasts and the Originals, Anna Jay, Julia Hart. So there's been a few different storylines going on it's been nice to have a few some layers to the women's division with different storylines. Maybe we'll kind of go through the show, but Julia Hart to me got my attention a little bit more last night for a good reason, and I think that while there's a particular super fan out there that would appreciate it, I in general I've been very impressed with her overall in the last few months or so. But if that's something we're talking about later in the show, we'll do that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So before we get going, I don't want to talk about every single thing in the show, but I do want to break down some of the stuff that we saw, some of the bigger highlights. But first, the guy I've been waiting to see if he would comment on this stream has commented, and here is what he said. I knew he was going to be there.
If sheesh is over, and that's pretty stupid. Scissoring is over. It's stupid, but it's over. Yeah, I believe they're making a lot more money than we are, and you can either like it or hate it. It's subjective, but either way.
Yeah, it's a fun little part of the gimmick. I mean, you think about DX, they got over doing stupid things like that as well, and the Attitude Era. So, anyways, let's get going. We start off with what I thought was a really good introductory match. Claudio and Rey Fenix in a double Jeopardy match. I don't know if there's been one of those type of stipulations on AEW, but I actually kind of like this that concept of two champions battling and the winner gets an opportunity sometime in the future. Claudio ends up winning this match. I think that was kind of maybe predictable per se. But he and one other member of the Blackpool Combat Club eventually will get an opportunity at the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. My assumption is it's probably going to be Danielson, but what do you think?
Either him or Yuta. I think that you're not going to see Moxley in it. It could be Danielson, but I think this is probably going to be him and Yuta. Since Yuta's been an ROH champion here recently with a pure title, I believe. So he's kind of been shown more on ROH TV, I think, than Danielson for sure, and for sure Moxley. So that's my guess. It might be Yuta. Very good match to open the show. It was nice to have a little bit of a change of not having the Orange Cassidy segment in the first segment of Dynamite. It seems like he's always getting those here with those international title defenses here recently. So it's a good little change of direction going with still a very good, high-quality match and two guys that know how to go with a cool stipulation. And so wish we didn't have these ROH stuff on an AEW TV show, but guy owns two brands. He's going to do whatever he wants to do. So
I was actually going to bring that up. We haven't seen as much as it was, I'd say, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But I just wish you would leave ROH stipulated matches to ROH and you have the AEW stuff. I don't necessarily per se have a problem with ROH wrestlers fighting in AEW, but for ROH championships and all of that, leave that to ROH sanctioned events. That's probably my takeaway from that. Was the match was great, but I think you could have had this match on ROH tonight and brought more people maybe to watch. Though, granted, paying for Honor Club to watch ROH. Maybe not the best way to build a fan base of ROH at this point, but I guess you got to go with what you got to go with at the beginning there.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why Tony Khan puts ROH type stuff on AEW. Like you said, definitely not as much as there was before, but I think the whole reason is because people have to pay to watch. I mean, people have to pay to watch TV too, but it's different when you have to pay, just for one service to watch one thing versus an umbrella, package for a streaming service. So I think the biggest thing with that is, we need to showcase ROH a little bit, get people interested and get people to try to watch ROH and be like, you know what, I need to watch more of that. And, what's going to happen with now the tag titles with the Lucha Bros and versus BCC? What's going to happen? So now I need to tune into Arnold Club or tune into one of their pay-per-views. So it's a good way to get that brand involved and to get some brand recognition and exposure, which is good. Just we don't need to see it every single week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Correct. And so I think the next biggest thing that I was a fan of is the fact that they still had some portion of the show dedicated for Double or Nothing's main event without really having to let the people be who are involved, the 4 men who are involved, really any live time. The vignettes that they played for all 4 men were short, quick to the point, but still good enough to be like, okay, here are the 4 men, the 4 pillars. Now you get to pick which one you want to choose to cheer for. I appreciated that. If there's one thing that maybe me and my brother who disagree on almost everything pro wrestling is the vignettes and the backstage promos. I love when those are used well. And that's something I think that wrestling in general, the past decade or so, with the few exceptions, they haven't been able to use the vignettes the way that, like you say, Attitude Era vignettes were, or Stone Cold and Brian Pillman and those backstage and offset type of things. But I thought the way that they used those vignettes to tell the story without them having to be there in Detroit, I think it was very well utilized.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes you don't need every single person to be there for this match. Sometimes to build the storylines is to talk about it. Promos, vignettes, video packages, whatever it may be. The old cliche in wrestling is you talk them into the building, you build up the storyline, you get them to want to see the match, and they get invested into the storyline, and they want to buy the pay-per-view, they want to go to the pay-per-view because of the build-up for the match. I'm a guy that loves pro wrestling in general, love 5-star matches. It doesn't always sell. It just adds to the the entertainment value. To me, I need a mixture of both story and wrestling. The best example that I always kind of follow back on is The Rock and Austin from WrestleMania 17, where every time I watch that video package and they did their physicality stuff to build the match, to build the event, to showcase how important it is, but they also utilize a lot of promo and vignette time to how important this match is, how big this match is, to where people are like, I need to watch this match. I need to watch this pay-per-view. And they were both faces before Austin turned at 17. And one of my, just like I said, it's my all-time favorite video package is that package for their match at 17, and it had the My Way Limp Bizkit song in the background for it. But they both had this sit-down interview, and they're both, I think it's with Jim Ross, and they're both in the locker room, and they're both just sitting across from each other, and they're saying why we need this match, why I need to win this match, how important this match is for me, how much it means to me for me to beat you. Just to me, that is the perfect thing. They showed a lot of the physicality stuff to build up of, these guys are really intense. They don't like each other. They build the story that way, but they also build the story of the promos and the vignettes. So you need a mixture of both. We've got somewhat of the physicality stuff, especially with the tag team match last week or 2 weeks ago. So you can pull that into the video package, and now we have this add-on with the video segments we did last night. So You can add that into the promo for the main event and really build this thing of how much the 4 pillars mean to the company, how this is a truly homegrown AEW main event, and how in 4 years this company is establishing the stars that it's trying to establish and make the future present. So I think they're doing a pretty good job with that. But yeah, I think that last night was needed. You need that, and you got to talk them into the building. MJF does a great job at that, but these other 3 guys need TV time to build up their promo skills. As we saw a couple weeks ago, when 3 of those guys were in the ring with Cabrera, Jungle Boy, and Darby, they're not polished. They're not polished, but they need that exposure to do it. They need the experience. They need to know how to get a crowd reaction, what goes over, what doesn't go over, what goes too much into the weeds, how to kind of simplify things, but also either get heat or get fans to respond. So yeah, I thought overall it was needed and it was pretty well done.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. The one thing I think the entire let's talk about the Anna Jay and Julia Hart match. You mentioned earlier. I'll get to the point I was actually going to make afterwards. It kind of leads into each other. Julia Hart has been probably the most improved on the women's division, I think, this year. She has done, and over the past year and a half, ever since they've brought back the House of Black, she has done, I think, an absolute.
Command from Juggertits joined.
Oh, we lost them. Here we go. Hold on 1 second here. I don't know what happened there, but okay.
Whoa.
Alrighty. Anyways, yeah, Julia Hart has done just an absolute bang-up job at just playing this character that she has. And the AEW women's division has a future. I really feel like it's not just like Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm and the people that we see now, but into the future, if those women were to leave for whatever reason, people like Sky Blue and Anna Jay and Julia and Taya Jade, they have a deep women's division, and I think that's why I get so frustrated at the lack of the women's division getting their time. It's because they're just so deep, and there's so much you can do with this women's division. And I really do think they could be the best women's division if they just had the time.
I would agree with that. I think it's hard to beat WWE's overall talent, but the way that it's very depth, they do a decent job at exposing them, giving them storylines,
Right.
and how to do that. I mean, WWE doesn't do everything perfectly. AEW doesn't do everything perfectly. There are better things at some than others, for sure. But for me, yeah, it's just you got to build this women's division by the characters, by the storytelling. Why should I care about it? It's the same thing with the men's division. Why should I care about this person? What makes me want to hate them or like them? But not in a negative way, not in a I'm changing the channel because I don't like you because you're boring. It's I want to see you get your ass kicked or you're such a bitch. You need to get, whatever. For me, yeah, I went back and after watching last night's match, Julia definitely has got a lot more respect for me just from her performance alone. Took a pretty nasty bump on the outside with that chair spot. And looks like she probably messed up her hip, maybe just her rib, her side, something like that. Definitely was bothering her, but she was a trooper, man. She kept on through the match, did a top rope superplex. That's not easy, and that is a long way down, and I'm sure affected that whatever she injured last night. But going back watching her, and I remember watching a match of hers in the first few times she showed up on Dynamite, and just the night and day difference. And she's still very young. She's really developed on her character work. Her promo skills have gotten much better. The character itself is getting better. She has a cool ass entrance with the theme song that I was like, I don't know what that theme song is. And I looked it up today and I'm like, this was actually made for her. And in one of the lines it said like, live in sin, the house always wins. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. Right. So she's got a really good thing going on. And I'm sure that she's getting mentored by Brody and Buddy and Malachi, all three of them have their own really good, unique ideas. And Malachi's a very cerebral type of character and guy, so I know that he's probably been working with her a lot on it too. And so I went back and watched a few of her different matches over the last month. A couple of them were with Anna Jay. One was with Kiera Hogan on Rampage. And her footwork, her in-ring work, her timing is just so much better. And her character work is good. She's kind of looking at some of the cameras with the stare, being a little more vocal in the ring. And that's not a bad thing. And it's not a sick way. That is it's emphasizing the character. It's emphasizing the work she's doing. The moveset she has is pretty good. So yeah, her overall development over the last year, especially in the last 6 months, has been really impressive. Right. And the best thing about this women's division is that it is so young. It's so young with Jamie and Britt, Sky Blue, Willow, Julia Hart, Anna Jay, Ty Mello. A lot of young talent. Right. You got the veterans in there too with Tony and Ruby, Soraya, Taya. Obviously, there's so many to name, but I mean, it's so young, it has so much room for growth. But as you can see, that with just work and time, you're not going to be an overnight thing. It's not just all of a sudden going to click overnight, but it's going to build up to where the more practice you get, the more reps you get, the more promo, character development, all that stuff shows that with the hard work and the timing, it's going to pay off. And for Julia Hart, right now it is. And we just need to do that with as much girls in the division to make it deep, build it up to be what it can be. And obviously they need to get a TV time too. So that's going to be interesting to see how it develops over the next few months.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our women's division in the next couple of years will compete. I actually think WWE isn't the best women's division right now. I think Impact Wrestling, if you look at what they're putting on, they actually put a really big emphasis on their women's division, like more so than a lot of other parts of their roster. And they have people like Deonna Purrazzo, Jordan Grace, several others that they really love that women's division in Impact. And it sucks that I don't think I get the channel that they're on every week. So I can't really watch them much, but yeah, I really like that women's division in Impact. But I think AEW has the possibility because, like you said, they're so young and so deep. There's so much talent there, and Tony Khan is always going out, and other people are always going out and finding stars in the making, and not even to mention the people that are injured that are due to come back. Chris Statlander, Layla Hirsch, and others like that who, like, let's just be honest, a lot of these women don't have a lot of time on TV in front of a crowd the size that they're going to be on. And so it's not going to be perfect. I don't expect it to be a perfect product right off the gate, but if we can have people like Julia Hart, when she was with the Varsity Blondes, she was awful. Like, she was just a pretty face at that point. But I really respect the work that she's putting in to becoming this character that she has become. But talking about the House of Black, the match they had, I loved the concept of the house rules or whatever it was. But the stipulation that they put with Bandito and the Best Friends, it was like, it was so dumb.
So,
like, and I understand they're a comedy gimmick. But they had the opportunity to pick any stipulation that they wanted, and it was just like, yeah, we don't want that girl that got injured in the match before to show up. Like, I don't know. To me, it was just kind of a down part of the entire segment there.
Yeah, I was so confused about that. I didn't know what the graphic they showed, if all those stipulations applied, plus they can select a rule, or if it was, hey, here's a list of rules, you have to select one of them. That part didn't make much sense to me at the time.
So the way that I understand it, it's they pick the rules that they wanted, the 20-second count outs, the no DQs, or whatever else. And then to make it quote unquote fair, they allowed their opponents to pick one additional stipulation.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense now.
To make it fair. And to me, the stipulation that was picked, I get it. I get the best friends or some this like comedy gimmick, and we got that funny thing at the end of their promo where Orange Cassidy was like, "I don't know, Renee. I'm just so tired." Like that was funny. That made me laugh. But the stipulation overall was kind of over. But they still put on a pretty good match with the House of Black, and the House of Black gets over. I don't know which trios team with this stipulation in place could beat the House of Black. I'm interested to see where this goes. But for that to be the first opportunity to showcase this new, I guess, stipulation, some trio set, it's just, to me, it left a bad first impression.
I don't disagree with that. My only thinking is that Julia got hurt and they had to call a pretty quick audible of, hey, she's actually kind of hurt. Like,
Right.
She's not going to be out there with them. How about let's just make that the stipulation because it, is able for her to get away. Hey, she's barred from ringside, but in reality, she's actually hurt. Let's protect her. Let's just not put her out there. She's kind of hurt. So that's the only thing I could have thought of, and they kind of made it a quick adjustment to that. I don't know for sure, but that whole segment was weird. And that whole, the whole Orange Cassidy, I don't know, Renee, I'm tired. And then, her saying, me too, bud. Like, I took that as a positive and a negative. Like, okay, that was funny. She went along with it. At the same time, like, what are we tired of? What's going on? Something we don't know about? And it could have been just maybe more so if that was a whole audible switch. Just,
right.
Hey, guys, listen, Julia's pretty banged up. She can't be out there. We need to pivot to something real quick, come up with something. Let's just go with on the fly and kill a little bit of time so we can get her out of there. And then best friends say that we don't want her at ringside. And then that gets rid of her. She's able to go in the back, get some help, get some medical attention. Right. I don't know. It was just kind of a weird segment overall. But once we got in the ring, I forgot about it. And for the most part, and love the layout of the match, the darker lights, the setup. The graphics around the arena was pretty good too. It just was a different vibe. It stuck out for the show. It made it memorable in the aspect of I remember that segment because it was so much different than any other segment on the show. So I'm interested to see where this goes and what kind of we look at now, week to week, month to month based. But I thought overall it served its purpose. It was good.
Yeah, overall the production style of the match itself, the lights are dropped. It kind of looks like I think they said like a 70s or 80s presentation. I liked the feel of the match. It was a great production-wise. It's just all the stipulations and all of that promo back, like it kind of left a weird taste in my mouth leading up to the match. House of Black wins, and then we go to the back, and Orange Cassidy gets destroyed by Kyle Phillips of Aussie Open. He holds up his AEW all international. They changed. Is it international champion now?
International title, yeah.
International championship. And I guess this leads to he's going to be the next one to challenge Orange Cassidy for that belt. Whether that's next week on Dynamite or maybe a couple weeks down the line at Double or Nothing. They didn't really specify, I don't think, much on when that match is going to happen. But to go back just a minute, I took the whole Orange Cassidy Renee thing as Orange Cassidy was tired because he just got his ass kicked against Daniel Garcia and won that match, which great match there. And then I took Renee being tired as she's been running all over the place, interviewing all these people. I don't know if that's what it was meant to be, but I'm not 100% sure there. I didn't take it anything negative there.
That's a fair point. I mean, didn't really think about that until you said it. And she was flying backstage, whether they were pre-tapes or they were trying to make it seem like they weren't pre-tapes and they were all live. Right. Yeah, she was going all over the place from the backstage interview spot to Tony Khan's office, backstage behind the curtain. Yeah, she was floating around a lot last night. Definitely got her steps in.
Definitely so. And then that leads us to, if I remember correctly, the main event, the Kenny Omega match against Jon Moxley and the Steel Cage. And Moxley comes out.
We did not to throw you off. We did have the Lethal Jarrett FTR promo. Don't know if you
Oh,
want to
yes.
kind of
Yes.
mention that or not.
Totally forgot. Yes. So let's talk about that real quick before we talk about the main event. So at Double or Nothing, we're going to have Lethal and Jarrett fight FTR with Mark Briscoe as the special guest referee. I don't know how I feel about this. We end up them like popping some sort of alcohol, and Sanjay spits it in Dax's face, and he ends up hitting some sort of, was it the big rig? I don't remember.
I think it was a pile driver.
Yeah, it was some sort of pile driver or some not on Mark Briscoe. I know Mark Briscoe's a tag team guy, and the circumstances surrounding all of that was so quick. But to push him into this story just kind of seems awkwardly placed. And I understand the point is like he's been friends with Briscoe and he's friends with FTR. It just kind of seems like an out of place thing for Mark to be in. Put him in at the special guest referee, I guess, is he's going to pick his alliances type of thing. What are your thoughts going into this Double or Nothing match?
It's weird. It kind of is, just because I get the whole feud with Lethal and Jarrett and FTR. They've been kind of going back and forth here for the last month or so. Get that. That's fine. Intertwining Mark Briscoe with it, I thought was odd for sure. And then it's like he's kind of on Jarrett and Lethal's side. And the promo they did, the vignette they did last week, that video was phenomenal. I laughed so hard with it at the whole farm thing. That was fantastic. Seeing Jeff Jarrett on the on that lawnmower type of thing. I think somebody had a sign last night. I'm gonna call him it from now on. He's no longer the Last Outlaw, which is what he's been calling himself. He's now the Grass Outlaw. That was phenomenal. I've got just a total respect for Jeff Jarrett because of the fact that he's trying to find ways to invent himself and keep his name, in the limelight. He's a very good marketing guy, very good brand guy, and that's why he's helped with the business side of AEW, especially with the house show stuff, which the ticket sales for Salem this weekend does not look very good, but that could be more of a marketing advertising thing versus a brand problem, or just the area in general is not right for wrestling. But anyways, you got to try. If you don't try, you're never going to know. And then once you do know, it's like, all right, well, maybe we need to not do that for a while. But anyways, I respect Jeff and respect Sanjay and Jay. All of them are doing a great job behind the scenes as being agent producers, helping, produce segments and interviews and promos and matches, all that good stuff. On camera, they can be very good too. It's going to be kind of weird to see, I guess, with Mark being the special guest referee, what's going to happen. I guess, like you said, he's going to have to align himself with somebody. Does he swerve FTR and go with Jarrett and Lethal? Does he, they've been kind of kissing his ass for the last few weeks. Is he just going to be like, haha, I got y'all. I fooled y'all. These are my best friends with FTR. We've bled together. We fought together. I've got more respect for them than I do you two clowns, and I'm with them. Right. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I know it's going to be a decent match. These guys know how to put on a good match, but just overall, it's just kind of a weird way this whole storyline has flowed. Yeah,
Jarrett, Lethal, Sanjay, and what's the fucking big tall guy?
Satnam Singh.
Yeah, that's just been a weird stable for quite a while now. And kudos to Jeff Jarrett. He looks like he's in better shape that he's been in quite a while. So kudos to him for actually putting in the work and getting in the ring. And at his age, it's difficult to be a wrestler when you're in the prime of your peak physical health. But when you get towards the back end of look at Ric Flair. He almost died in his last match. So
Ric Flair will die from a wrestling match. I'm pretty convinced I know.
He's going to
pull a Dale Earnhardt.
Yes, sir, he will. Let's just jump real quick here into this main event. So I didn't watch this live, and I remember you sent me a text that said the ending of Dynamite will shock you. I'm still in shock, and I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay, let's just let this play out. And so the match goes on. It's what you I think imagine when it's a John Moxley, Kenny Omega steel cage match. I think the match wasn't even 3 minutes in before some blood was on John Moxley. And Omega brought out the barbed wire chair. The match was great. The spot where the V trigger through the steel cage, I didn't think that was a gimmicked part of the match. To be like, I was shocked. Like, what the hell just happened? Obviously,
Yeah.
they that was a gimmicked cage for the spot. Looking back into hindsight, to me, it looked like Omega actually kind of got hurt with his leg getting trapped there.
Yeah, that was a weird fall for them. I thought for sure, kind of looking back on the replay, the first one, I was like, damn, Moxley really got messed up there. And he actually didn't land that bad. He really didn't. Omega kind of got the I would say the worst end of that in a way.
Right.
He landed kind of in between his legs, which was kind of weird, but then his leg did get trapped a little bit. When that cage spot happened, I was like, oh, shit. I was not ready for that, not expecting that whatsoever.
Right.
That legitimately got a pretty good reaction out of me for that. The top rope coming off and Moxley using that to choke Omega out with it.
Right.
Crazy.
So they showed that during, I think, a picture-in-picture segment. And so since I didn't watch it live, I was just fast-forwarding through the commercials. And then they come back and he has him like fish hooked. And I'm like, what the fuck did I just miss? The whole fucking ring is destroyed.
Yeah.
And yeah, so overall the match was great. One winged angel gets hit. Omega's about to win. And then the swerve, I think, of AEW history happens when Don Callis turns on someone he's called basically a son, Kenny Omega, to allow John Moxley to win this match. Where the fuck did this come from, and what the fuck's going to happen afterwards? I really don't know. Like, is Callis now the leader of the Blackpool Combat Club? The way Danielson was like smirking and smiling leads me to believe that this maybe was like a deal that they've struck out somewhere in the back. I'm interested to see where this story leads. But oh my goodness, I think I sat there jaw dropped for like 10 minutes afterwards when this happened. That was the last thing that I ever could have imagined happening. I was thinking there was a new debut coming when you sent me that text. But Don Callis turning on his boy Kenny Omega. Can you put any sense into this or like understand why this happened? Like I still don't understand maybe right now where this leads.
It's going to lead back to a swerve of Callis coming back to Omega. No. Swerve upon swerve. You swerve the people, bro, by swerving them again to swerve them, and it just swerves everything, and you make it a swerve fest, and it's so good, bro.
He's gonna be Big Show and turn heel face 3 times in a row.
Right.
So.
I knew that turn was coming. It was.
Right.
The seeds have been planted. It was when it was going to happen, and that was the least expected time I thought it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it would happen on pay-per-view. Bigger Dynamite, an all-in.
Now, I will say they were programming this Dynamite as a pay-per-view on free television. So
this is true. I thought it wasn't going to be then. And, yeah, that left me pretty much in shock. Hell, Bully Ray, who I respect his opinion very much. Sure, there's some things I don't agree with him on. There are some things I do agree with him on. His biggest thing is sometimes he watches shows twice. Once as a wrestler watching it, and then secondly as a fan with his eyes closed. And it's hearing the crowd reaction. If the crowd is not very much into it, probably wasn't a good segment. If you can hear in that crowd and you kind of feel that and you kind of have to open your eyes as to what the hell just happened, that's when it gets you. And I kind of did that the second time. I didn't watch the show the second time, but I kind of went back and watched that segment. Just kind of closed my eyes, and I was like, that pop when Omega hit, or when Callis hit Omega with that screwdriver, just sold the entire thing.
Right.
It was a genuine, like, jaw-dropping, no type of reaction.
Right.
And that just goes to show you that while most people probably saw that coming, they were not expecting it right then and there.
At that
and
moment,
now it was one of the better endings of Dynamite in a long time. Tony Khan likes to use the analogy of sometimes you don't need all the answers, but I give you more questions, or I answer the question with another question.
Right.
That works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. Last night worked, and it left us questioning what the hell is going to happen next from a lot of different perspectives. Where does this go with the BCC and the Elite? Where does this go with now Callis and Omega? Where does this go with the Elite and Callis? Maybe Callis is with the BCC. Maybe Callis is bringing in somebody from NJPW, Aussie Open, maybe somebody else. I don't know. Leads to a whole couple different things, and it's very intriguing.
Well, you've kind of seen over the last couple months, like when the Young Bucks got hurt, Callis pulled Omega away from him, went, and then he's been recruiting Takeshita in the background. I don't know where this leads. I really don't. And I like the fact that I don't know where it leads, because it leaves me to want to come back and watch the conclusion of what happened. This was maybe more shocking just because of the timing, like you said, than when Regal turned on Moxley against MJF. That was shocking in my opinion, but this was almost, if not more shocking to me, just like you said, because of the timing. And I don't know where this leads with Don Callis. I ultimately believe, I think there was either a back segment or maybe a previous segment where Omega was like, if I can't trust my family, who can I trust? And I ultimately believe that the Golden Lovers tag team comes back, and we're going to get Kota Ibushi at some point. And I don't know when that happens. I don't know if that happens. I know Ibushi, as far as I understand, is still a free agent. And so that'll be interesting to see if that's where that leads. But overall, like, it was just really shocking because I really didn't expect it at that point. Like, ultimately, maybe so you could have seen something further down the line. I thought more what Callis was going to turn more so on the Young Bucks, and it affected Kenny more so than him actually defeating Kenny. So the way they did it, kudos to AEW for pulling that on us. I tend to like to think that Tony Khan, when it gets down to the pay-per-views, the last 6 Dynamites and leading up to the pay-per-view, around 6, he puts on his best performance booking leading up to the show. We see this with the four pillars main event, where it took forever for this match to become official. But now that it's official, now that they're getting ready to tell this story of the pillars fighting for the belt, the story's coming along, and it's leading up to the main event, and it's going to be a good main event. We look at this Double or Nothing card, and outside of the main event, the 4 pillars match, and the Briscoes versus FTR, or not the Briscoes, I'm sorry, the Briscoe special guest to get with FTR and Jarrett and Lethal, there's no other confirmed matches on this card. If you were to guess, and if I were to guess, let me put it this way. If I were to guess, we're probably going to get an Adam Cole, Chris Jericho match. We'll probably get Britt and Jamie and one other wrestler fighting the Outcast. It would be my assumption. And maybe a couple other filler matches, maybe a TNT title match with Wardlow and Christian Cage, I guess. Any other matches? This might be one of the smallest cards on AEW history, and it's probably because this main event's going to take quite a while to let everybody hit where they need to hit.
Well, remember, we kind of thought the same thing about that with Revolution, because it was going to be MJF and Danielson in that Iron Man match, and they kind of wouldn't say threw together a couple matches at the last minute, but the last 2 weeks before the pay-per-view, they kind of put a couple different matches with a couple weeks of storyline built into them. So whether or not we get we could get a women's championship match between either Storm and Hayter or Saraya and Hayter, and then it'd be Tony and Soho versus Shida and Britt. Could do that. You could do a TBS championship match, a rematch with Valkyrie and Jade, or you could do Jade in an open challenge and Statlander comes back. Probably might have because of this Double or Nothing and the gimmick battle royal, the casino battle royal, or the ladder match. We're probably going to get that. There might be a couple other small matches for sure, but I think that this is it's probably going to have that same effect of you don't really know until we get about the go home show. But I will say this: at the last two pay-per-views, we had the main event storyline in play at least a month and a half before the pay-per-view. That's something that AEW has not done a whole lot of, and that was kind of a criticism I had was you need your main event, you need your A story.
Right.
This is something that, there's a bunch of different wrestling minds that I agree with some things that they do. Don't agree with some things they do, but if you kind of put all their stuff together, it makes like a perfect promoter. Nobody's perfect. But Eric Bischoff, need your A story, your B story, and your C story. Even though, it didn't always work for WCW, but hey, it is what it is. If your pillar is, that's a shitty roster. Once again, that's subjective. If you want to make up a consolation prize to call it a world title and have people on a different brand wrestle for it, even though you already said that we have a draft, people say a brand, and that different brands are fighting for a Raw title. Oh, we can just put them on a different show. You drafted them for a reason that just automatically discredits the draft.
For those, this will be put on audio platforms here in a day or so when I have time to edit all of this. The comment that I put up, it's from my brother, and like I said, I don't really agree with him on much of anything in wrestling. He put a comment on our YouTube stream. If those are your pillars, referring to MJF, Jungle Boy, Sammy G, and Darby Allin, then that's a pretty shitty roster. We got youth on our side. Your pillars are near the back end of their career. So
I agree that they're more established stars. Sure, I definitely agree with that. My problem is this isn't a bash WWE show. We're supposed to be talking about Dynamite. I should have been on that show that you guys recorded a week or so ago about the whole draft thing. And the world title is a consolation prize. First of all, it's the same meaning as the U.S. title, as the IC title.
Yep.
The TNT title means the same as the international title. So, they're all consolation prizes. But anyways, I digress.
Back to business.
Yes, I really enjoy the fact that AEW has set kind of the main event, the A story build for their pay-per-views pretty early after a big pay-per-view. That gives it a month and a half to build this. So for Revolution, we got that MJF Bryan Danielson thing January,
right?
Where Danielson had to go through all these matches to get a shot, and he did. So we had that storyline going in, if not the first January of the new year, at least the second. So we had a month and a half build ready for that. Right. This one, as soon as Revolution ended, Sammy G, Darby, and Jungle Boy came out to interrupt MJF, and all four of them are having a promo battle.
Right.
If not right after, it had to be right after Revolution or the week after.
I honestly think it was the first Dynamite after Revolution.
Yeah.
And because I was sitting there thinking when it first happened, like, why are they doing this? And for the first couple of weeks of doing it, it was really a slow build. But now that, like I said, now that we're getting right out here, we have this time for it to build. And sometimes just storylines need time to, it's a slow building story. And this is one of them. And we're getting a match that I think people have been wanting for quite a while, because these have been stated to be the four pillars of AEW for maybe since their inception. 4 homegrown talents, which is something that while we're trying not to bash WWE all we want, their fans are like, all your guys are ex-WWE guys. And now we have a main event where it's 4 homegrown talents in a ring, and I think they're going to put on a great match. And I agree. The story, when it gets to the build and around pay-per-view time, Tony Khan just knows how to perfectly tell the story and not give away too much too early to get it to where it's at its climax leading up to the pay-per-view.
No, he doesn't, but he definitely plants those seeds,
Right.
and he has been for the last 2 pay-per-views, at least a month and a half out, and it allows it to build. So that way you're like, all right, hey, listen, this is about this direction we're going to go. Let's start building into this. Let's start feeding into this, and week by week we're going to start building this. Once we get to about the 4th or 5th week out from the show, we're really going to ramp it up and get people wanting to be like, oh, damn, this might be a good match, good main event, whatever. So, I appreciate that. I love that. Keep doing that, because to me, that builds more credibility for your shows, and you're not doing a panic booking, and you're not doing a slow build, and then all of a sudden 2 or 3 weeks out of the pay-per-view, oh, hey, listen, we got these storylines and matches. No, you're building up your main story for the world title, and everything else is secondary, and we're going to slowly build that card as we go along, but we want to implement those seeds for what the main event story is going into a pay-per-view month, at least a month or 2 in advance, because you're building a story. You're trying to get people to buy into the story. What is it? How do we get to it? Things like that. So I appreciate that. They need to keep doing that, and it's going to be a little bit difficult as we get towards the summer, because they got Forbidden Door, All In, and All Out within a 2-month span between June and August, and 2.5 month span. So it's going to start getting a little crazy here for AEW. I'm interested to see where it goes, but hell, look at the roster. Most of the champions are homegrown people.
Right.
Wardlow, TNT champion, Jay, the TBS champion, Hayter, the women's champion, MJF, the world champion, Cassidy, the international champion. FTR is the only non-homegrown.
And FTR has just recently recaptured that title. For the past while, it was the Acclaimed homegrown and the Guns. Another homegrown. So it's not that tag team division it's full of homegrown guys and that are working to move up the ladder. And then before the Acclaimed, it was Swerve in Your Glory, which I guess you can call them.
Keith Lee was a known guy for sure.
Yeah. So
Swerve, not so much, but he was known in the diehard realm.
Right.
I don't know when I'm going to be back on this podcast again, but or we're talking about wrestling in general, but I'm going to go ahead and plant the seeds in your mind. Do we get a Punk return at Double or Nothing?
I think we have to. And I don't want to say guaranteed yes, but you got to think, if that's what the announcement is next week, that of Collision on Saturday night, and then I also think they're going to talk about the new AEW Warner Bros. Deal as well, which I want to talk about that at the end. Talk about that Warner Bros. Deal. You got to have some sort of guy to come out there at some point and push people to watch this show. So I maybe not Double or Nothing, but maybe the Dynamite after, or something there to build off a story for, hey, I'm CM Punk, I'm going to be on AEW Collision, which is the rumored name of the show. It's going to be on Saturdays on TNT, I believe, is where they're going to put it on. And at this time, come watch me. It's supposed to, a June start date in Chicago, I think, is the first show that they're pushing it there. You got to think at some point in the next couple of weeks, they are going to push Punk. You saw in a lot of those vignettes that they showed yesterday, there was a lot of CM Punk references. So obviously he's back in there. There were also a lot of Cody Rhodes references, which I thought was kind of weird that they still brought up Cody Rhodes as much as they did. Sammy Guevara had like 8 or 9 references towards Cody Rhodes and his vignette package, and so did MJF. And so it's weird, but yeah, I think at some point, maybe not at Double or Nothing, but maybe the week prior, following Double or Nothing, I think we'll see CM Punk at some point in the next month or so.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're definitely. I mean, we're 6 days away from a month out of the rumored start date for Collision. I think June 17th, my daughter's birthday. Maybe we'll go to the show. Just kidding.
In Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. I think we definitely get that Punk tease soon. I mean,
Right.
like you said, we've been mentioning the name a lot more. We didn't do that very much in September, October, November, December. Not much mention of the man. And now we're starting to talk about him more. So he's definitely coming around very soon. Hell, maybe he interferes in the Adam Cole Jericho match. That's one of the rumored feuds with him is with him and Jericho. Maybe they're going to be on Collision. Obviously, the Rampage numbers, the debut show, the first dance at United Center in Chicago sold out the arena, drew good numbers for the debut show. Gotta think that maybe that the same happens again. The brain split thing would be kind of cool. And yeah, a couple of cool, maybe different announcements coming from Tony next week with the Warner deal, this and that. My biggest thing is can we get the damn game?
I was gonna say I got a couple topics AEW related. I kind of want to go rapid fire with you about. We spent a lot of time talking about Dynamite, but there have been a lot of things going on in the AEW realm that I think are worth mentioning. One of these things is another comment from my brother on the YouTube channel. He says this: imagine creating a whole show because your EVPs are crybabies. And I would like to mention that has not been confirmed that's why they're building this new show. So you can just fuck off.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I know that Jericho had a beef with Punk, and apparently they talked about it, according to the dirt sheets. I don't know if the EVPs have talked to Punk at all. I feel like in a way it's kind of best for them to not talk if it's going to spark an argument. Sometimes you don't have to like the people you work with. You just got to work with them because it draws money. Bischoff said that so many times. He worked with Russo, not because he liked Russo, but because it's an opportunity to show that he can work with anybody. He doesn't have to like him if he can trust him, or he doesn't have to trust him if he likes him, whatever it was, and try to draw some money. And they did for a brief time, but sometimes the best stuff happens when you don't like somebody. And maybe eventually we get a CMFTR versus the Elite match. I don't know how that's going to work into the fold now with the whole Don Callis thing. Maybe Callis is recruiting Punk. Who knows?
That'd be weird. That'd be a weird twist, but look, they've done a lot of weird turns and twists in AEW, so wouldn't put it past you. Let's go rapid fire real quick here. I mentioned briefly this Warner Bros. Deal with AEW, rumored to be at $1 billion with a B dollars over 5 years, exclusive rights to the pay-per-views, I believe, to Warner Bros. And what I would also maybe consider, they're putting the entire catalog on the rebranded streaming site once the Discovery Plus HBO Max merger gets complete. They're going to rebrand it as just Max. I assume all of the AEW catalog will get pushed there as well when all of that gets through. Let me just ask this question. The biggest complaint from the WWE marks is that AEW can't pull a profit. Why is Warner Brothers so, their ratings are so bad? And the one thing I always say is it doesn't matter about the ratings so much. It doesn't matter about profit so much. If the TV company that's paying you to put their stuff on the show is happy, that's all that matters. Will this be enough to shut them up? Like $1 billion over 5 years, a second contract extension on this for the company. Obviously, Warner is happy. They're giving them a third show, a fourth show if you count All Access. So obviously, they're happy with the way that AEW is helping Warner overall.
No, it won't shut them up. I wish it would, but it won't. Selling out Wembley Stadium, close to it, didn't do it. This new media deal won't do it because WWE's already done that. So why is it news? It's not impressive. WWE's already done it. It's not impressive. It is impressive. It is impressive in the fact that a different company is doing this. Sure.
a company that's 4 years old
Yes.
is
TNA,
just getting a $1 billion contract.
Listen, in the first 4 years when Crockett took over and made WCW, and then let's go 1988. Within 4 years, what did they do? Nothing. It was still Saturday night on Saturdays. There was no primetime show on Monday nights. Pay-per-views was still 4 or 5 a year. That was it. House show business was shitty. See, there you go. I mean, it doesn't matter. Randall, the comment on the YouTube stream, WWE sold for $8.9 billion. You're still behind. Exactly right. It doesn't matter what's good. There's always an argument no matter what. If AEW sold for $10 billion, whatever. The fact that Vince sold his company that eventually got bought out by a different company, kind of funny in my opinion, but hey, whatever. He's getting more money than I will, so I can't complain too much. Still sad that your product is still pretty shitty though. But anyways, yeah, we had a draft for nothing. Last time I tried to draft, usually a guy stays on one team, not intertwined. Whatever. Anyways, so it's impressive in the fact that in the first 4 years of WCW, nothing happened from 88 to 92. Then when Bischoff got hired as the executive assistant, executive president, whatever you want to call it, from like 92, 93, first 4 years, he took away the house shows, put WCW at MGM, and cut their costs to help try to somewhat turn the ship around. Got Hulk Hogan, got Macho Man Randy Savage, Lex Luger, the Steiners, and Hall and Nash, and they started to build up a promotion. They got Monday nights on Monday Nitro and became the number one wrestling organization in the world.
Right.
That's impressive for Bischoff's first 4 years. That didn't happen. Well, I guess it was more of his first 5 years, but still, that's impressive. But WCW as a brand didn't do anything their first 4 years, I guess, after they became whatever they became. TNA in the first 4 years, 02 to 06. The biggest thing they did in 06 was they got a TV deal from Spike TV. We're on Thursday nights at 11. I think they initially, and then they went from Saturday nights to 11 to Thursday nights at 8. And then got a 2-hour show. And then had their first pay-per-view on the road at Bound for Glory 2006 in October. 3,000 people. That was impressive for the time because nobody gave him a chance. Nobody gave him a shot. So the bar got raised by AEW, who, by the way, WWE in their first 4 years, not much. Obviously, in the 1900s, you can't do that. NWA, the same thing. I'm trying to go off of what the most recent stuff. ECW in their first 4 years didn't do shit. It wasn't until Paul Heyman in his first, 6 years, they finally went to TNN and then had a pay-per-view, or they did pay-per-view first, then they did TNN, did the touring stuff, whatever. None of those companies had to deal with a pandemic.
Right.
Not one. Company could have probably more than likely shut down.
Right.
Because of, whatever. They didn't. They carried on. They got a TV deal within their first year of operation.
Right.
TNA had to go on a weekly pay-per-view schedule for 4 years or 3.5 years before they finally landed on Fox Sports for a 30-minute show on Best Damn Sports Show, period. And this is where the wrestling knowledge comes in. If people actually knew this stuff, maybe they wouldn't be so much of a homer and a pity guy. But anyways, when you know your history, it actually helps. So yeah, and that was with TNA having great big stars like Sting and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Macho Man Randy Savage. Those guys were in the company and it still didn't do much.
Right.
So to go in your first year to have a TV deal rights to be shown in primetime television in the middle of the week is impressive in itself.
Right.
Sold out your first ever show on national television. Damn near impressive. Sold out your first pay-per-view with no television. Impressive. And then we get to, you survive the pandemic, you come back on the road. You sold out United Center that WWE never goes to, by the way. Never goes to, by the way. They're always at Allstate Arena. They're never in United Center. Wonder why. But AEW, the very first time they go to United Center, sold the fucking place out on a rumor. For
right.
a
There was
hour television show.
There was never a confirmed CM Punk is coming. It was just a rumor, and when the rumor started, the show sold out immediately.
Correct.
It wasn't like it sold out after 3 weeks of them winking and nodding that Punk is coming. It was, Punk may come back, so everybody's buying tickets.
Thunder sold out because we had a month's notice ahead of time that there was another 2-hour show heading on TBS on prime time. So it was actually a 3-hour show in its first premiere in January of '98. But WCW sold out because they were a hot brand. They had Monday Nitro for the past 2 years that were kicking ass, and that's why they sold out Thunder the first time. SmackDown sold out the first time that it happened because Raw was a hot brand. WWE as a brand was hot in '99, so that's why SmackDown sold out in August of '99. Okay, so there's reasons for why those things already happened. For the fact that a 3-year-old company put a new show out on a Friday night at 10 o'clock, the live portion of the show was 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. Live show. WWE, SmackDown, 8 p.m. Raw, 8 p.m. Monday Nitro, 8 p.m. Thunder, 8 p.m. There's a pattern here. Dynamite, 8 p.m. This show was a 9 p.m. start time, Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. So the fact that you sold out a show for a show that wasn't even starting until UFC time, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock for the main card, but 9 o'clock, on a rumor, and never been to that building before, that's expensive as hell to rent out, that they said, nah, we're going to do it on a rumor. For a 1-hour TV show, we're going to do it. And they did it. Go to an international spot. Yeah, sure, you could say that we expected them to sell out. We probably did. They're doing very well. And then we get to Collision, whenever that's going to be. It's probably going to sell out. If it's in Chicago, wherever it's going to be, it's probably going to sell out. But, and you hadn't tell your portion. I haven't even got to the new TV deal yet, but you can talk about your portion real quick.
So,
I haven't been on the show in a while. I have to get all this out.
Yes, he's had a 1.5 years of frustration pent up here. But no, so we look at it, and we'll talk about Wembley here in a minute, but there hasn't been a confirmed match on the Wembley card. And the one thing that I hated about last week, I think it was, when I had my live stream with my brother, and he was like, yeah, well, the European crowd is they travel. Well, so does the American crowd. There's people that go from East Coast to West Coast and West Coast to East Coast in America.
State to state, yeah.
Right, to watch shows. AEW sold out hasn't 100%, but for the most part, 70,000 tickets or so, maybe more. I haven't checked the updated numbers the last couple of days, to Wembley fucking Stadium. The first time you go outside of the North American continent without a match being confirmed. So yeah, maybe we thought they would sell out at some point. We didn't even know they were going to Wembley Stadium until a couple weeks ago when they announced that. We knew they were going to London. My thought was they were just going to pull some smaller venue in London. They picked Wembley Stadium. Oh, well, it's going to cost them a lot of money. No, it's come out that Tony Khan has a pretty good deal with the people at Wembley, and because the Jaguars have a game there this year, they're getting a discounted rate to rent out Wembley Stadium. Tony Khan may not be the smartest man in wrestling, but he is a businessman, and he wouldn't do what he is doing with this company if he didn't think he could make money and make AEW a really good alternative brand of wrestling for a specific type of fan. And people think that he cares about casuals. I don't think he does. I think he really just wants it to be a independent show on a mass scale. He is just some mark who wants to have his own company and just put on matches that he loved to see. From what I understood, he grew up as a big ECW fan. And we don't have the ECW style of wrestling anymore since the WWE basically pulled a monopoly. And he just wants to have an alternative that isn't some cheesy Because let's just be honest, for the longest time, Ring of Honor was very cheesy and sold like 160 seats in an arena. MLW, not a really good alternative. Like they could barely fill up the Grady Cole Center when we went a couple months ago. And Impact, they're not filling 30,000 seat arenas. So he just wanted an alternative that could be on TV on a prime time slot to just be an alternative to WWE and give the fans who are more interested in wrestling rather than soap opera.
Let me give you another quick history lesson on this because I had to look it up because I didn't know, so I'm sorry. A big thing that happened for TNA was to go to you can't. I will not disagree with you that you cannot build your brand without casuals. Totally agree with that.
I will agree with that.
I agree with that for sure.
You can't only build your brand around casual, so you need to have a firm base.
Yes, but here's the thing about it is, yes, in England you're going to have a strong crowd because they don't get a whole lot of top promotions over there. When TNA first went to the UK, they just did house shows for a couple of years. And then they were like, you know what? I think we're strong enough to where if we go over there and say that it's a live Impact or a taped Impact, we might actually get more people. So the first ever TNA Impact Wrestling broadcast was in 2013 in England at the Manchester Arena, 23,000 seat capacity. They drew 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
That was a success for them because it was more than 2,000 or 3,000 people. So you go from Manchester Arena, 6,000 in attendance out of a 20,000 seat arena, to saying, hey, our first ever time we're going to England, our first ever time going to the UK is also, hey, by the way, going to be televised, pay-per-view, inside of Wembley Stadium, one of the most historic places probably in the world.
Right.
And you've already gotten 2/3 of the arena, the stadium sold on an announcement with no matches. Shows that the brand is very, very strong
and
in Europe.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people are like, "Oh, WWE's hotter in America." Well, yeah, they're hotter than America. They've been around 800 times as long. Look look past America. That's the one thing I hate about this American, I guess, centric brand of wrestling is they only view viewership in terms of American ratings. They don't look outside of America to see that there's millions of fans from Japan to England to France and Australia, Canada that don't get counted in the Nielsen ratings that absolutely love AEW. To be completely honest, in Africa, they love Impact Wrestling. They get like 1 million viewers a week from Africa.
India does well for Impact.
So,
but yeah,
overall, it's not just an American-focused sport. You have to look at the worldwide impact of AEW.
I definitely agree with that. And internationally, this was known. This is not like a rumor, me calling somebody. It's factual. AEW outperforms WWE in the ratings in Europe. They do. That's great. My problem is for AEW, they need a better footprint in America. Funny to say for an American company, you need a better footprint in America. They do. I appreciate them trying different things. And that's kind of relying on what I'm saying is that's awesome. They can sell out 70,000 people in Wembley, probably 80, maybe 90, maybe could be top 5 all-time wrestling paid events in the history. But they got to do better with the American side of it. They do draw some very strong crowds in certain markets, Chicago, Detroit, New York, Canada, obviously. But they need to do a better job with getting a better footprint. There are some markets in this country that are just not good for wrestling. South Florida is one of them. Virginia is hit or miss. West Virginia, hit or miss.
Sadly, it seems like, Flair country outside of Charlotte and Raleigh, the rest of the Carolinas is kind of dead.
Yeah, and I think it's because there's more transplants now than there was before. So, you don't have your local people as much, especially in the bigger markets. So maybe if you go to Asheville, maybe if you go to Fayetteville, maybe if you go to Hickory or Greenville, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, maybe you might draw a little bit better crowd instead of Columbia, Raleigh, Charlotte, because you have a lot more transplant people and they may not be, whatever. But in general, I mean, you just got to keep trying. You just got to keep trying to go back to places that you may have had success, which is pissing me off, the fact that AEW does not yet come out to Charlotte. And I may need to find Tony Khan's number and call him.
Their travel schedule was weird. They went from New York to Florida to Baltimore, now to Detroit.
Baltimore? Salem, Virginia. Yeah, we can't even get a damn house show. I hear Cabarrus Arena's down the road. I'm sure they'll be open for business. Impact Wrestling had a couple house shows. NXT did, damn it. Come on now.
Impact Wrestling, remember, they had their biggest pay-per-view of the year there and Bound for Glory.
They sure damn did. And we sat guardrail side and we're seen on television a lot. But yeah, the TV deal is phenomenal. Yeah, sure. WWE is getting $2 billion from USA and Fox right now for their television rights. That shouldn't be shocking for the WWE crowd because they're the biggest game in town. They should be getting those. And as much as they do for everything, they do very well. So they should be getting those deals. For a low company like this, only 4 years old, who haven't done a whole lot of stuff, to get a TV deal in the first year is impressive. And then to get a possible re-up for $1 billion is even more impressive. TNA has never had $1 billion deal. They went to Spike TV, and then once Spike TV stopped, they went to Destination America, they went to Pop TV, they went to Access TV. They have floated around so many different channels and have not even sniffed $1 billion TV deal.
You can blame yourself for that.
Yeah, and, NWA, the same thing. ECW, the same thing. All those companies that thought they wanted to be bigger never got $1 billion deal. WCW didn't either, but, they were on Warner, so they got a very good TV deal. But the fact that this company, who is not a Warner subsidiary, they're kind of the same principle as WWE. They're their own thing. They're not a TV company that shows wrestling. They're a wrestling company who are looking for TV deals, who are pitching that, much like WWE. And the fact that they're getting $1 billion television deal is very impressive. And it's strengthening their mark as becoming the second most known wrestling company in the world. With that being said, you just got to do better with the American crowd. You got to do better at marketing to those crowds, to get those, whatnot. Hey, Peacock might be getting bought out, though. So
I'll refute this. So the comment was, don't forget the $1 billion Peacock deal. Let's just put this in place. Peacock has about 200 million subscribers, I think I saw, in the U.S. Max, which is the streaming deal for Warner, has 5 times as many viewers because HBO Max is where Game of Thrones was played. So there's bigger reach for AEW if they put their content on Max to reach a really big audience of people that are just scrolling through the app or the whatever on their TV and wonder what AEW is.
Right. Once again, there is no, hey, AEW is better than WWE talk, because that's just nonsense. Right. WWE is the end-all, be-all right now. The fact that people have different places to go is phenomenal. For wrestling fans, for wrestlers, for people that work within the business, it's phenomenal. And you get paid pretty decently with AEW. As you get out of AEW, depending on the company, you may not get paid as very well.
I think the TV deal is important.
It's very important. Absolutely, it is.
Because not because they are going to out profit the WWE or take over their things, but it shows that the WWE isn't the only company that can get these deals. That there is a need in the market for alternatives to pro wrestling. So I think you can see if another company, another person wants to start a third company to compete or bring another alternative, that there is a need in the market for wrestling and in general. And a lot of people like to say that, well, pro wrestling wasn't as hot as it was in the 90s. And that's mostly because the PG era killed off all the steam of the Attitude Era, I would say. But there's still a heavy love for people our age who grew up in the Attitude Era for that style of wrestling and wrestling in general. And so
I agree with that.
To have one monopoly of a company run the entire industry is just bad for wrestling in general. So the fact that another company can get a deal this big is important for the growth of wrestling overall.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of different companies out there who are doing great. NWA is doing pretty decent. Impact is doing decent. WWE is doing good. AEW is doing good. The Attitude Era, as Randall says in a comment, in hindsight, the Attitude Era sucked. I tend to agree with that in some ways. As I've grown older, the more I'm like, it wasn't actually that great. TV ratings were the best they ever were. I mean,
it was good for the culture at that time.
As far as I can tell, we're doing pay-per-views in stadiums,
right?
Which is awesome. Not discrediting that whatsoever. That is very cool. We're not doing Monday Night Raws in stadiums. We're not doing Dynamites in stadiums. Monday Night Raw, Monday Nitro, Thunder, SmackDown. They're going to stadiums in the 90s.
Right.
Georgia Dome.
The
WWE
the WWE Madison Square Garden show is half as important nowadays as it was back in the early days.
Ago. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important for them to go, but I mean, it's not like it was before. No. And once again, from a maybe storyline, creative type of thing, wrestling wise, was the Attitude Era great? Probably not really. You had your great big stars who were great on the mic and could deliver some great storytelling or at least decent storytelling and got you to buy the pay-per-views or whatnot and made you watch the show every week. When Monday Night Raw is the Monday Night in Nitro with the water cooler talk versus Monday Night Football, you're doing something well. And that's what wrestling did in the late 90s. 5.6 point Nielsen ratings, while NFL numbers shattered that and most of other stuff shattered that. That's a big damn deal back in the 90s because people were watching those shows every week.
And you had to think they were watching it live or maybe immediately after it went off air because they would show the replay immediately
following. Yeah, you're not recording unless you're getting a VHS or a VCR. They didn't have TiVo until like 2000. So, people more dedicated to watch it. But I mean, like I said, you're not selling out 30, 40,000 tickets to the Georgia Dome. You're not selling out 30, 40,000 tickets to the New Orleans, Mercedes, whatever it's called, Caesar's Palace Superdome.
Superdome, yeah.
The
Doug Dimmadome.
The Doug Dimmadome, home of the Doug Dimmadome. You're not selling those out anymore. That's what wrestling did in the 90s because it was so big. I still think, though, that we're very near a wrestling boom, but a much different boom than the 90s. You're probably still not going to see those stadium Raws and Dynamites and SmackDowns. But WWE is going to a lot more stadium stuff now. SummerSlam used to never be in a stadium. Royal Rumble, very little was in a stadium. But now they're doing that.
And if I had to give WWE one thing to their credit, it's that they're able to bring in people like Bad Bunny. As much as I don't understand why he's there to bring in another audience. He is the most popular Latin American artist in this generation. And it's like the Mike Tysons and the other people that in the 90s that showed up that could bring. And AEW has tried to do that with like some of these rappers.
Sometimes you'll get the guy Mike Tyson. You may get a football player in there, but that's not their niche right now. They're not trying to get that. They're trying to build up their brand and try to say that the brand of AEW is strong, and it is in some ways for sure. WWE has just been around for 100 years longer. So, I mean, they've got a 100-year head start than AEW. So you're able to have that repertoire of bringing in a Bad Bunny, a Pat McAfee, a Logan Paul, these YouTube people and these sports guys. You're able to do that. It's just the way it works. And WWE is still getting paid handsomely for the Saudi Arabian deal, the TV deals, the Peacock deal, being bought out. I mean, once again, WWE does great in certain things for sure. WrestleMania went from a one-night thing to a weekend thing to now a week-long thing. That's impressive. SummerSlam's the same way now. Royal Rumble's the same way now. We just got to get that fourth one to hopefully build back some oomph and see if that helps it at all. But
Right.
Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is going to London and selling out.
The O2.
Might be the O2 Arena. I think they're going to.
Mhm.
Their first pay-per-view since, if you don't want to count Clash at the Castle, since SummerSlam '92, or I mean, the one night only shows were pay-per-views, but it was only pay-per-view in Europe. But that's cool that a B type pay-per-view is now going to international stuff.
So
that's showing it.
I want to bring up a chat that we kind of mentioned earlier, and I had something that just came in my mind. I wanted to address it, and then we'll go to one last topic, and then we're running kind of long here. But
yeah, sorry for that.
Yeah, no, we're good here. So bring it back to the comment of the only market that matters to an American company should be America. That is a very old school mentality. You take a look now. Obviously, Puerto Rico is part of America. It's as a not a I don't know what it's like a province of America or whatever. So it is. I guess it's still technically an American market. Canada, they went to Canada. Now they're going over to London. You're seeing the international pool of these American companies. Impact just announced that in August, I think they're going to Australia for a weekend of it there. The need for the global market for wrestling is bigger than ever in terms of your overall success. As even if you're an American company or not, you need to be able to pull numbers on a global scale. And WWE, listen, they got the American market pretty much unlocked. And AEW is going to slowly maybe eat towards the American market. But AEW has the global scale because of their deals with New Japan and their deals with Triple A, and the fact that they're working, a lot of the stars that they have work with these indie shows around the world. It's a big thing for you to build not only just an Americanized brand. That's important to build in your home turf, but to go outside of the American continent and build your brand outward. The economy of everything is going to a more globalized system. So you have to be able to work with that market, or else you're not going to last very long.
Yeah, and just one quick thing before we kind of move on. This will be quick. When you had mentioned about the need for wrestling and these TV deals, I would disagree with more so that there's a need for wrestling. It's more so a need for live events.
Right.
You don't have very many live events besides sports that are on TV. You may occasionally get a live American Idol or America's Got Talent or The Bachelor or whatever. You're not getting live events much. You're not getting live concerts on TV much, besides the New Year's Eve stuff, and maybe the Macy's Day Parade and stuff like that. So the need for a live event, especially a weekly live event, is very high. It's needed because it's original television. It's different. It's new. It's fresh. So the need for that in the market is very apparent. So
and you look at the pandemic, there was such a need for live events. So you saw like when NASCAR decided to open back up, kind of off topic, NASCAR's ratings exploded because they were the first live event to come back after the pandemic.
Sport. I mean, wrestling was on, but I mean, sport wise, they were the only one at that point.
Right. So yeah, there is a need for live events. People I think they love live events a lot because it's unpredictable in a sense, to where like it's not a scripted thing where you can kind of pinpoint, okay, it's a 2-hour show or 2-hour movie. At the 1 hour point is when we're going to hit like this turn or whatnot, So yeah, live events are very important for everybody. Everybody needs some sort of entertainment source that's not just some scripted TV show or movie. The last thing I kind of want to talk to you about, and you mentioned it, when the fuck are we getting this video game?
Your guess is as good as mine.
So
they pulled out these damn video games because of Punk, and now he's getting ready to come back. So now we're going to put him back on the fucking cover again.
Right. So from what I understood is all of the content needed to promote the video game, I guess, and everything was finished. They're just waiting on a date. And I wonder if they're waiting for Punk to come back and he's going to be like the big cover guy for the whole thing, and then they'll release it when Punk is back and established. It just, I don't understand. I know there was a hiccup, I guess, in some of the rating thing there, and some of the promotional aspects they were waiting on to finish some of that stuff. But if all of that is completed and the rating is where they want it to be, can we just get the game? I just want the game.
I get it that if Punk comes back, he was your focal point on your posters, on your cover. So
right,
you're probably gonna have to reissue those again, or just use the ones you had before and just slap it on that.
Right.
I know that when Dynamite kind of changed their set, they kind of put on hold so they can update that. So now it looks as updated as possible. But especially with the roster stuff, Punk is probably the focal point. So you're wanting to put him on the cover, and I get that. I guess I do.
Well, if they were going to follow the model of just one game with a yearly or a weekly or a monthly roster update, then just give it to us and put Punk in when he comes back.
I guess they want a really good, strong initial sales part of it, and that's going to help it. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I mean, at that point, just put the game on and let us download what we need to download and update what we need to update. And let's say we have a game.
Yeah, but it's been fun. We've gone an hour and a half. Hasn't seemed that long. But AEW, I think they just do such a good job leading up to pay-per-views that you can go along talking about all the positives. There are some negatives about AEW. It wasn't a perfect show. There were some low moments there, some things that I didn't like. I mentioned like the stipulation for the House of Black match, just so my brother and everybody else that thinks that I'm just like some Tony Khan dick rider. Like, I will criticize the show, I'm not just here to praise Tony Khan and think he does everything perfectly. Like, he does have some things that he doesn't do well in, and then I'll criticize him for that. But overall, I think the product is in a good place. Obviously, the network executives are good with where they're at. They got this big TV deal that is assumed to be announced next Wednesday. I don't know. Anything else you got to promote before we head off tonight, sir? Or today?
Tune into my podcast. I'll put a new episode up in probably 8 years. So go back and listen to the old ones. I don't know if and when I'll do another one of those. But no, the only thing I would really promote is both Junkyard Jimmy over there and myself and 3 of our other friends, all 5 of us, Chicken Nugget Knuckleheads. We do a nice little live stream on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, called the Callin Audibles podcast, where we talk football. So it's a football-only podcast. It's done pretty well so far. It's been fun to do that. So tune in to that. It is Thursday night of the date of this recording. So tune in tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. And we have a YouTube feed for that. Check our social media channels for that. Fun stuff there. Yeah, this was fun. This was great. Need to do it every now and then and not take up so much time, and maybe help me get off some of the wrestling stuff too.
I would say I'd bring my brother on here, but I feel like we'd go on for about 4 hours if all 3 of us were on the show. Tune in tonight. The same channel that you can watch this on as it's recording now, the Junkyard Media Group page. I think tonight we're just going to go over the schedule release for the NFL that is being released tonight. I think at 8 o'clock we're going to go over some important games, some aspects of the schedule there. And then you'll see about halfway through the show that me and Commander K-Dog over here will be on our phone buying tickets to a game as soon as we know when it gets released.
Got some good ideas for that. That weekend's going to be fun. Even if we get our asses kicked, that's going to be fun. We're probably going to do some content for the page for that. That's going to be fun too. So down the road, but tonight should be fun as well. And check out his stuff for this podcast. Does a good job of it. And check out our stuff on Thursday nights. Fun stuff.
Yes, sir. And as we head off, I thank y'all for tuning in. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell. That way you know when we're live and we don't have to spam you with links all the time. Like, comment, subscribe, share this. Let's get this going big, y'all, and we'll see you the next time here on the Junkyard.